Hello students, here we are starting with our fifth chapter of class 9th, that is Fundamental Unit of Life. Fundamental Unit of Life. What is fundamental unit of life? As you know that if we talk about a building, it is made up of certain small bricks, and we know that our body is also a kind of building. So we can say that our body is also made up of certain small units which are fundamental unit of our life. So you can see in the figure what happens. Initially there are certain small, very small units which are cell. You can see certain small units are there. These are cell. And afterwards, when so many cells of same type combine together, they form tissues. Specific tissues are there. Then when the tissues combine, they form organs or organ systems. And when several organ systems combine, then they form a body of particular organism. As you know that these small units are known as cell. So we can say that the fundamental unit of life is cell. Now just think that if that small unit is cell, so many cells of common origin or same in function or structure, they are combined to perform a particular function. Those groups of small units are known as tissues. And tissues, when they are specific in their action, so they combine to form certain organs, and we know that several organs are there in our body, and when several organs combine, they form a particular system. We have several systems, and those systems are specific in performing a particular function. So we know that for our we can say that for performing all the metabolic activities of our life, we have specific systems. For example, we have digestive system for digestion, we have respiratory system for respiration, excretory system for excretion. So like this we have several systems, and those systems are made up of organs. So systems, when they combine together, then a particular organism is formed, and we can say that that particular organism is made up of the smallest or the basic unit, that is cell. So that's why this cell is also known as basic structural and functional unit of our life, or we can say it is the fundamental unit of life. Now let's discuss about its discovery. Who discovered cell? See, there was a scientist, or we can say that there was a biologist, Robert Hooke, in 1665. It was just an accidental event, we can say, because he was not just thinking that he has to discover the cell. Generally it happens that discoveries occur by chance. So Robert Hooke was just playing with a pair of lenses, and since at that time there were no microscopes, so he just took some pair of lenses and he designed a microscope himself. Now what happened? He was sitting in a garden and he thought, he saw, we can say he saw the bark of a tree. You know what is bark? Bark is the outer tissue, or we can say outermost cell of that stem portion, that is very hard in texture. So what he did, he just took that bark and he found those cork cells out of that bark of the tree, and then he took his self-designed microscope and he examined those cells, or we can't say cells because since at that time there were no cells, it was not recognized, we can say. So what happened, he took his self-designed microscope and he examined those structures under that microscope, and he found some honeycomb like structures. You know honeycomb like structures? So there were certain small compartments in the that honeycomb, and he named those compartments as cell. So he took a thin slice of cork under a self-designed microscope, and then he found certain compartments which he named as cell. Now let's discuss discoveries related to cell. So see, the cell which was examined by Robert Hooke, it was dead cell. So dead cell was discovered by Robert Hooke in 1665. Then came another scientist, that is Antoine van Leeuwenhoek, that is in 1676 he found living cells. Then Robert Brown, nucleus was discovered by Robert Brown in 1831, and you know that nucleus is the basic structure that is responsible for controlling all the activities of cell. We have read, you might have read in class 8th. Then protoplasm, it was discovered by Purkinje in 1839. Then came Schleiden and Schwann, they gave certain postulates related to the cell that we will discuss later on. So those postulates were related to the cell, and when those postulates were combined, it became a cell theory. So cell theory was given by Schleiden and Schwann, and it was extended by, we can say that suppose I am giving certain postulates and someone else is adding one more postulate in that particular theory. So we can say that it is the extension of my theory. So same happened with Rudolf Virchow. He was a biologist who extended the cell theory given by Schleiden and Schwann. He said all the new cells are formed from pre-existing cells. What he said, that whenever we grow, whenever there is certain change in our body, you know that when we are growing, when certain parts are growing, or if nothing is happening, if we are not able to observe anything, still cell division is going on in our body. So Rudolf Virchow said that all the new cells are formed from pre-existing cells, means those cells which are already existing in our body are responsible for forming new cells. So that was related to the discovery of cell. Next, as I told you right now, cell theory, it was given by Schleiden and Schwann. So what are those postulates which were given by Schleiden and Schwann? See, cell is the basic unit of structure of all plants and animals, as we have discussed previously, that basic structural and functional unit of any living being, whether it is plant or animal, it is cell only. Then cell is the basic unit of function, as all the metabolic reactions take place inside the cell. Means structure, it is also related to the cell, and functions are also related to cell. How can we say that? See, we have discussed it that every living being is made up of small basic unit, that is cell. So it means structure we have discussed. How function? You know that whatever function you are performing or your body is performing, that is actually performed by the cell. How we can observe this? See, when we eat food, it goes into our digestive tract, then it digests, and along with the blood it reaches to the cells. Now we know that we take food just for getting energy, and that energy is produced by the cell. It means that we are taking food means cell is taking food. We are digesting food, it means cell is digesting, absorbing, and then producing energy. What happens? Cell divisions are going on in our body. It means that when we can say that when cells are dividing, it means there is also a particular metabolic process going on in our body. So this was the explanation of second postulate. Third one is cell is a unit of hereditary material inside the nucleus. We know that it is the basic or smallest unit because cell contain nucleus and nucleus contain hereditary material. So which is that unit which is responsible for inheritance? That is cell only. Then all living cells arise only from pre-existing cells. That was the given postulate by Rudolf Virchow. So these were the postulates related to cell theory. So we can say that cell theory, it is responsible for structural and functional relationship among different living forms from a smallest one to the largest one. Okay. Cells, how numerous they are. You know that according to the different organisms, there are different number of cells present in their body. It is not necessary that every living organism contain same number of cells. It differs from one organism to another one. So if we categorize them into two parts, it may be unicellular or multicellular. So unicellular organisms are organisms which have only one cell. It means the body itself is having only one cell. The particular cell which is present in their body is not only acting as a cell, it is acting like the body of organism. Means all those functions which are performed by that organism are performed by that particular cell in unicellular organisms. Means their body has only one cell. For example, have you heard about amoeba? Amoeba is irregular shaped organism which is unicellular. So it has only one cell. That cell is performing all the functions in the body of amoeba, whether it is excretion, it is digestion, it is absorption, or any other process. Then paramecium. Paramecium is also unicellular organism in which only one cell is present, which itself performs all the functions which are required for its existence. Now, certain other types of organisms are also there. If we talk about dog, lion, some other mammals, or we can say that all the animals of higher kingdom that we will discuss in further chapters, those all animals are included in multicellular organisms. Means their body contain complex body organization and they have certain organs and organ systems and something more complex. If we talk about plants, plants also have many cells in their body. We know that they have tissues. If they have tissues, it means cells are numerous. So we can say that the organisms having many cells in their body are known as multicellular. So if we talk about number, then there are two types of organisms, unicellular and multicellular. How small or large they are. Now come to the point that if many cells are there in body or if there is only one cell, how small and large they are, whether cells are small or they are large. See, there are certain varieties in those cells. Sometimes those cells are very tiny that they cannot be seen through our naked eyes, and we are able to see them with only microscope. Then there are certain exceptions, or we can say that if we talk about largest, smallest and longest cell. So the smallest cell is mycoplasma. Mycoplasma is PPLO, that is pleuropneumonia like organisms. So they measure 0.1 to 0.5 micron in diameter. It means you can't imagine that how small they are. That is the smallest cell. Then the longest cell is nerve cell, that is 1 meter long. Then the largest one, longest and largest is different. Longest means that is having more length. So largest one is ostrich egg. Egg of an ostrich. Its diameter is 170 into 135 mm. So it is the largest cell. Now, next we are going to discuss is how different they are. It means that if we talk about their number, we have discussed that they can be divided into two parts, that is unicellular and multicellular. Then we have discussed about that whether they are large or small. Now, how different they are means related to their shape. So we have several varieties of cells. That is nerve cell, it is elongated, long structure is there. If we talk about muscle cells, they are spindle shaped. If guard cells are there, guard cells, you know that these are those outermost or those surrounding cells of stomata. So these guard cells are bean shaped. Red blood cells, these are sphericals. And amoeba, which we have discussed right now, it is irregular in shape. It means that there is not any necessity that all the cells will be of same shape. So there are different kinds of cells in we can say that in one organism only several different kinds of cells are present. So there are so many varieties